Welcome back, everybody. I hope you're excellent. Today's video is kind of an odds and ends video. I want to talk about several pieces of gear that make my life easier and that I find useful in my home studio, but I couldn't really justify doing a standalone video about them. They're going to range from things like amp switches and guitar add-ons to things like this, a pen. Everyone should have a pen and some kind of notebook on their desk. This is the first thing. Whether you are songwriting, whether you're taking notes on your mixes, whether you're writing down, for me, ideas that I have for, product demos. I might be thinking, how on earth am I going to demo this new delay pedal? Or how am I going to put together a tutorial for the Axe effects? I'll jot my ideas down here. If I'm sitting down with my acoustic guitar writing a song, I will write down lyric and arrangement ideas in here. I find that makes it a whole lot easier when I actually go to demo and record the song. So many things, I just write myself little notes and little motivational things as well. It's so useful having a little, sketch pad, journal, whatever you want to call it. I tell all my private guitar students to keep a practice journal. If I write a cool lick or something like that and it pops out, I'll quickly tab it out and jot it down in here. It's just such a useful thing to have a pen and paper on your desk. I really mean it. I've also got a journal in here so that I can write down when I've got gigs and lessons and things that I need to do. This seems so rudimentary, but this has literally changed my life. It's made sure that I don't forget things that I otherwise would forget. So that's the start. You can see where this video is going. One extra thing that I find super handy if you like demoing pedals or you just like having your pedal set up, this stuff, blue tack, sticky tack, whatever you want to call it. You can take a pedal, for example, this excellent GFI Specular Tempest, you can stick a piece of blue tack on it and, I don't have a handy table here, but I could do that. And then it's going to stay in place if you want to film it. So pro tip, a little bit of sticky tack there. That's the start of the video. I swear it's going to get a little bit more interesting. I want to talk about a really cool amp switcher next. Now, this isn't something that I use every day, but it is super convenient for a lot of reasons. It's the Radial Headbone VT, and what it lets you do is you can connect two separate valve heads to the same speaker cabinet, and it will let you switch between them while doing it safely. So you're kind of not going to blow anything up. It provides a load to the inactive amplifier while you're playing the active amplifier. And this is something that I have used in the recording studio before. It's been super handy, say when quad tracking heavy distorted guitars. You can set up two complementary amps, for example, something like a dual rectifier and a Marshall JCM 2000, dial them in the way you like them through the same cabinet and mic setup. And you can just connect this and do a take with, say, your dual rectifier, press a button, you can go through and do another take with, your Marshall or your complementary amp, whatever you want to do. That's the way I've used it in the past, rather than having to do a bunch of takes with one amp and then unplug everything, plug the other amp in. I know that sounds like a first world problem, and I guess it kind of is, but it massively cleans up workflow when recording like that. I've also used it for doing amp head demos and comparisons. For example, my JCM 2000 versus JCM 800 comparison. This is really handy because you can go back and forth between the two amps and dial them in and see how close you can make them sound, or have a listen to any perceived differences in there. So I'm going to set this up really quickly and show you how it works. This isn't really going to be an in-depth tone demo, just a quick idea of how it works. Once everything's plugged in, you can set up your amps however you like them and switch between them. At the moment, I have a DSL 50 on the bottom, which I've got set up on the green channel 1, so it's going to be quite a clean sound. And then I am on the edge switch to the right mode on this, which is kind of the more extreme saturated mode on the molecular. Let's just have a listen to it. So you can hear there the switching isn't exactly seamless, but it's pretty close. It's close enough for rock and roll. You could do a similar thing here, or you could set them up basically to make your kind of dream multi-channel amp out of your favorite existing amplifiers. A capo is a great utility device to have in the studio or for playing live. This is a G7th. I've had this since 2013. I actually bought it in New York, so it has some sentimental value. For me, I feel like I've probably lost this over 100 times and found it again. I've also done hundreds of gigs with it, and it's obviously a great utility tool if you're playing acoustic guitar live and you need to change keys or play particular songs in particular tunings. Hello, Wonderwall. But what I like is, let's say you're tracking guitar for a song and you're playing, I don't know, E minor, C, and D. Do a track like that, put the capo on fret 7, and then play an A minor, an F, and a G shape. You get the same chords, just voiced higher, and it sounds magical tracked together. Next up on the list, precious fluids. There's a few things that I pretty much use every day here in the studio. I'll start with this. This is Dr. Duck's Axe Wax and String Lube. I bought, I want to say maybe 5 of these on eBay like 8 years ago, and I've probably only got through about 3 of them. And this is a great kind of all-purpose cleaner for fretboards, for the metal parts in your guitar. You can use it as a lubricant in nuts, and it's really nice as a kind of polish for a guitar with a matte finish. And talking about polish, Dunlop 65 just kind of does the trick. You should know what this is. I always have some of this around, and I always have a lint-free cloth on hand. For example, this guitar, hopefully this will come up. Maybe you won't be able to see it. There's some dust here, so just using a lint-free cloth, you can either just wipe your guitar off after every time you play it, or for the kind of gloss parts, I would use the Formula 65. I'm showing you how to polish a guitar. You should know how to do this, I think. I basically didn't know how to do this when I was a teenager anyway. So, spray a little bit on, wipe it on, and then with a different part of the cloth, buff it out. And, that's a good, wholesome way to spend an evening with your guitar. But the Axe Wax is really nice because you can do a similar thing in like a different part of the cloth, or maybe use a different cloth. I actually normally just put a bit on the end of my finger, but you can use it on the kind of matte finish. So this has a matte finish on the back here, and sometimes it just gets a little bit greasy if I've played it a lot. And most matte finishes eventually will kind of polish up over time, but I love rubbing a bit of that on the back there. And then similar thing, what I actually do, and I don't know if this is a tech thing, I'm not a guitar tech, but yeah, just kind of give it a nice buff with that, and then you have a silky smooth finish on the back of your guitar. I really should do this more because I love the way that feels right there. But I will say with this Axe Wax, I've just had some of this in my guitar bag and my guitar case pretty much forever. Like every tour I've ever done, I've had this, and it's just such a nice little utility thing, after a gig. When you change your strings, you can just kind of wipe your guitar down, give it a bit of love on the fingerboard, on the parts where strings touch it, and it works really well. I like it. I don't even know if you can get it anymore. The last kind of fluid is some contact cleaner. I got this from J-Car here in Australia. It's like, I don't know, Servasol. I've seen, what's the other one that people always use? Deoxit as well. I'm cheap. That was like a third of the price of Deoxit, and you got a whole bunch more, and I just kind of use it in everything. I'll do the jacks on my guitars, and I will do the pickup selectors and things like that probably once every 3 or 4 months just to make sure they're in tip-top shape. And it's saved me so much on just having to replace parts, because I'll hear a scratchy pot or something and I'll just go, is that the pot going bad, or does it just need a little bit of contact cleaner? And most of the time contact cleaner does the job. It's absolutely magic, and I love it, and I highly recommend it. There's one other thing that I think everybody should have, but I'm not really going to show you how to use this. It's just a soldering iron. I actually just recently upgraded my soldering iron. It's kind of a must for any studio or home studio, and just having the basic knowledge of how to solder things will not only save you time, it will save you money as well, because you can make your own cables, you can wire up your own guitars, you can fix things quickly, which I like. And this was relatively affordable. I had an older iron that was pretty cheap and it took ages to heat up. This is temperature controlled, it heats up so quickly, and it's just a whole lot more accurate and easier to use. The first guitar I wired with this was my PRS McCarty with the Fishman Fluence pickups, and it's probably the best wiring job I've ever done, and I'm an absolute hack with a soldering iron. Normally it takes me like 4 or 5 goes to just wire a guitar, but this one I got first time, which is a minor miracle. So it's worth spending a little bit of extra money on a good iron setup. I wouldn't say that this is essential, but for me, it has made my workflow when I'm patching in external pedals or doing demo videos so much easier. I have my Axe-Fx 3 racked up on my desk, and I built a patch panel. I got the panel from Jcar, and these are some Nutric connectors in here. And basically what I've got a couple of outputs coming from my Axe-Fx 3, and then I've got a bunch of stereo inputs going back in. So if I wanted to patch in a pedal, say like the PolyFX Digit, and use it for convolution reverb or use it as a synthesizer, it's really, really easy to just connect a couple of cables rather than having to reach around the back. And I've just actually kind of injured myself a bunch of times doing this. You kind of don't notice that, you know, you're stretching in a really uncomfortable way, or you're putting your shoulder or your back or your hips in an awkward position. This is really, really ergonomic this way. You can see I've got a couple of Boss pedals hooked up here. And also very importantly is having a pedal power supply. This is a T-Rex fuel tank that's actually pumping out 12 volts. I've also got a 9 volt. There's so many options now for these kind of things, whether it's from companies like Strymon or the good old Voodoo Lab pedal power. And all of this, if we just kind of conveniently turn over here, is actually running over here off a Furman PL8 power conditioner. You can see I've modded it with googly eyes. Everything on my desk is going through this, and I can also use it as a little desk light, which is super, super handy. So this kind of whole setup over here is essentially being powered by this. Finally, I should mention my Atom A7X studio monitors. These are probably the most important piece of gear in my studio. They sound fantastic and I love them. They're perfect for mixing on, they're perfect for dialing in tones. I find that tones that I dial in on these monitors with my Axe-Fx translate perfectly well. They're just rock solid. I love these things. Before we go, I should also mention these headphones. These are, what are these? Audio-Technica M50X headphones. I've had them for a couple of years. They work. They're excellent. I use them every single day, whether I am practicing late at night with headphones or whether I'm doing a Zoom lesson or something like that. I need these and they need to work, and these work. I've also got this M-Audio Oxygenate MIDI controller, which is just so handy for programming virtual instruments, far more ergonomic than clicking on a mouse all the time. I actually ordered one of their little Arturia, is it the Key Steps or something like that, the one with the step sequencer and MIDI out. I ordered that at the end of July, and it seems like there is absolutely no stock in Australia. So I'm hoping that arrives soon so that I can do some videos with the synthesizer in my PolyFX Digit. Not that this is bad, like I can do it with this, but the Arturia one has a step sequencer, and I've been getting into synthesis and kind of flirting with the idea of doing some synth videos for guitar players out there, because I'm definitely a beginner when it comes to synthesis. And if that's something that you would find interesting, please let me know in the comments. I probably need that little push over the edge to get it going. Alrighty, that's about it for now. I hope you found some of these little tips and little things that I use interesting in some way. Of course, I would love to hear from you. What are the things that just make your life easier when it comes to playing guitar day to day, whether it be as somebody who just plays for fun at home after hours, someone who runs a home studio, someone who's gigging. I'm always looking for new little tips and tricks. So let me know in the comments, share it around. I'm sure we can all weigh in and help one another out with those kind of things. Thanks for watching the video. Stay excellent, be good to one another. I'll see you next time. Cheers.